Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 883. Does the Agile Manifesto still guide us? The manifesto has been an integral part of most of our professional lives. Organizations and teams seem to be tired of values and principles. Is the manifesto still relevant? Our panel today features Daniel Duran, Jeremy Willets, Freddie Clark, John M. Cagley, Jeremy Berriault, and myself. Remember, Mastering Work Intake sponsors the SPaMCAST. Poor work entry means delivering a lot less to your customers. Work intake controls what a team works on and when they work on it. Purchase a copy of Mastering Work Intake, written by Thomas M. Cagley Jr., myself, and Jeremy Willets. Links in the show notes to J. Ross Publishing and to Amazon. Either place, have fun. We look forward to the conversation. Gentlemen, many of us have been around, probably predate things like the Agile Manifesto. But most of our career, or a big chunk of our career, the Agile Manifesto has been around. And for those of you who, don't have the Agile Manifesto tattooed on yourself somewhere, remember it was 4 values or 4 value couplets and a bunch of principles. But the 4 values were individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. Which of those ended up being actually important?
Well, I think one that was totally ignored is the one dealing with processes and tools. Because everybody's just high on Jira and those tools. And that one just went down the drain, it just circled down the drain.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Now, as to which one perdured or whatever, I wouldn't know which one to say.
I don't know. I think maybe the individuals and the interactions probably is a significant player. And
yes,
I might have a caveat to the tools thing.
Okay.
The tool matters less, to be sure, if the individuals and stuff. But when I think of tools, I think of processes kind of coupled with that. And I think an entirely ad hoc make it up as you go along with, if you don't have the right kind of talent on the team to figure out what's needed, and we just throw all kinds of process to the wind and for example, we can dump configuration management. We don't need it.
Well,
we don't think we need it.
Again, that's not what that meant.
It's not what it meant, but
right.
It's what it's a spin of it.
Okay.
Right? Because we're saying we don't need tools. We don't need processes. That's the most. That's why I said a caveat to it, not I don't smash it, but I do say there's some people that say, hey, these things, we don't need that. We don't need a detailed testing methodology. Why? Because we're just going to figure it out as we go along, which is partly true, but not entirely true.
But that's the rep that Agile got for the longest time. I remember even when I came to the place that I currently work, hearing people talk about how Agile meant you didn't put together any sort of plan. You didn't have insight into what you were going to do next until you got into work that day. It was frankly just untrue, and it missed the point completely.
I'm not sure it's only limited to the early launching things either.
Yeah, but it had that reputation, I think, John, because you're kind of right. I think people took what Tom said about those 4 principle statements and assumed the stuff on the right was meneaningless to the Agile movement, when in actuality, if you read the preamble, it's like, well, we say that there is value in the things on the right. We prioritize the things on the left more. So it's there's still some value in processes and tools, but we value individuals and interactions more.
And it really is that it depends on what you're doing. You can get by without a lot of things if you're doing a certain set of work. If you're in the automotive manufacturing and you got a long pipeline of material that you need to coordinate, you probably can't dump CM. But if you're a co-located team, it's a single product, it touches nothing else, you can certainly pare it down to something much smaller.
True. And I will say, I think as the Agile movement has grown and matured, and Tom has made quips about it having mom jeans at this point, like the Agile is at the point where it can be considered and used for things like John described, automotive work. If you would have flashed back to 2001 when the thing was written, it was the manifesto for Agile software development. Nobody would have looked at an automotive or an environment or a car and said, let's use these 4 values and 12 principles to build a car. That was not the mindset of those people that wrote that manifesto 25 years ago.
Yeah. Well, in 2005, I was managing some projects that were, I'm not going to say, because I didn't know anything about Agile Manifesto then in 2005. But in 2005, a project came into this big OEM, and the constraints on it and the talent available meant we couldn't run it like a software development project like you would normally run one. It had to be really Spartan and close to the bone. And so we were just in time specs and just the right amount of detail to the specifications for the software functions to be written, and the operating system for the thing to be written and things like this. Incremental. I mean, massively incremental. It's always been incremental, but in the automotive world, it might be 6 or 7 loops, not 6 or 7 loops in one product type, So, and it was after the fact that I'm like, oh man, we've been doing Agile here or something really akin to it. And so from about 2005 to some other, when I was managing other projects at this OEM, it took a very big Agile flair to the tune in about 2015. The company was adopting an Agile-esque approach. Not great, but close. Like you say.
Freddie?
Yeah, it's really interesting to me. And I think it's evolved over time for me. I think individuals and interactions is always been important, but I think the one that's stood out a lot more recently and as software has developed and evolved, and I would say especially with the advent of AI, customer collaboration has really risen to the top for me. It really is one, defining who your customer is, and today it's everybody. And those different verticals of everybody wanting different things and really understanding the root of how do I engage my product with this person, and what benefits are they getting from this. And I think, as I said, it has risen really high to the top with the advent of AI, and we're seeing it as people are forming relationships with technology now, true relationships with technology. And it's a part of that learning that the AI is grown from, of how does a human engage with this technology stack? How do we deliver that engagement so that, one, a person stays sane, hopefully, but at the same time, it engages with it, it becomes a part of their life, it helps them accomplish certain goals, so on and so forth. And that feedback loop has become ever present, I would say, in a way that it's never been before.
Well, for me, obviously, I care more about the interactions part. And what I think is kind of interesting, everyone's saying it's the manifesto for Agile software development, 2001. Oh, this is great. It's revolutionary. But really, if you think back and dig deep and kind of think of it from a philosophical point of view, a lot of the stuff it's talking about has been done decades before, even centuries before.
Yep.
It's not something that is new. It was just brought to the light. And when the website, when it came up, everyone was like, oh my God, this is great. It's like, well, yeah, it is. But take a step back and look at all the stuff that we're doing. Servant leadership started around the 70s. Transformational leadership started, I think, around the 80s and 90s. Adaptive leadership around the 90s. A lot of, just from a leadership perspective in Agile spaces, it's been around for a while. The U.S. military was using decentralized command back in World War II. Decentralized command, if you look into it, those are pretty much agile principles. You're given your guidelines. Here's your goal. Don't go outside the guidelines and get her done. So I think when all this happened, everyone's like, to the point earlier, it's like, oh, everyone's following Jira. It's like, no, yeah, we're using the tools. We fell so much on the technology side that we've just completely blew out how we interact with people. And I think when you have the pandemic that we just went through, a lot of those interactions were through technology, through Zoom, much like we're doing here. We're all in different spots. I think this conversation probably might be, actually, it probably wouldn't be much different if we were all in the same room, especially if there's beer. But everywhere else, the conversations are always different because now people are awkward when we interact with each other. I've seen it with teams I work with now. When they come into the office, they don't interact the same way as they do when they're online. It's completely different. So I'm kind of helping them retrain themselves how to, talk to people.
But I would argue, Tom, just to go back to your initial question, the product stuff is still the hardest thing to figure out. Freddie name-checked it there a second ago. Customer collaboration, building new products. The Agile Manifesto has not been a magic bullet for product development, as some people probably thought it was going to be. That's why I think intense focus on interactions and tools has led to people somewhat ignoring Agile, or Marty Kagan and the Silicon Valley Product Group creating 3 books now that trumpet the product model, which smells a lot like Agile, but it's much more tailored towards product management, product managers, people who work in quote unquote product. That seems to be the new buzzwordy thing, the product model. If you go out and look at job descriptions online now, you'll see a lot of people, product coaches, people to come work in the product model. I'd argue that that's still the thing we have not solved.
Yeah, well, this is what Donald Reinhardson called the fuzzy front end, right? And I don't think that Jeremy's idea of bringing beer into the equation would solve that.
Yeah, it's bourbon. It really should be bourbon.
Yes.
Well, whatever, something works. But and getting to the product piece, like I remember, as Tom said, before the manifesto came out, I was doing software development, and you do stuff in waterfall, and you had people guessing what the product is supposed to look like, what the customers needs, what they're going to want, what they need. And that's still being done now. I think for the most part, like usually people's like, oh, and I've had a meeting where I was talking to product people and they would literally say, I think this is what the customer wants. It's like, well, if you think, then you don't know.
Well, hasn't this always been a problem?
It's always been a problem.
No,
but I think,
why is this a
the whole point
problem?
of customer collaboration, though, we should be, if we're supposed to be doing that, then like the whole human interaction.
Stop spending your time being a Jira jockey and get out there and see what customers are doing.
Okay.
That's the truth of the matter. Is that a controversial statement?
I'm going to jump in just for a second. Jira, and we pick on Jira, right? Because it is the 800-pound thing in the room. Whether it's a gorilla, elephant, you pick whatever, right? It is the tool. Now Azure is weighing in on that. We're tool. Many of us are technologists. We are a little bit biased toward tools. So yeah, none of us ought to be a tool jockey. Tools ought to enable. But I'll step back. Somebody is going to have to look forward. They might work with customers, but they're going to have to guess what the customers want in the future. Because very frankly, the customers don't know what they want.
Yeah.
Who
in God's name?
Who in gosh name ever thought they would want a black glass thing called an iPod in their pocket with 32 songs on it or whatever, right? Nobody or a Walkman or an iPhone. I remember when the iPad came out, what the jokes were about that. Nobody knew that they would want that. Somebody imagined that and then brought it to market. Now
if you build it, they will come moment.
To some extent. Obviously, that if we're making mayonnaise, or we're making French fries, we're going to have a different point of view. How much of what, Freddie, you are an active product owner, a product manager kind of person. How much of what you wrestle with is truly the customers know exactly what they want, or how much of that is using that knowledge to sort of create something that once they figure out what they want, it'll be there for them?
It would be hard to quantify it, but me, I love my analogies. Customers give me a seedling, like I have a nice little seedling. Me, myself, my team, and our data, I would say, are a seedling in this situation. But the customers are the light that we grow towards, the sunlight we grow towards. So it's really interesting because an idea or concept may come to us and we'll be like, okay, we're seeing through the data that our customers have to click, like they keep falling off at this point. We don't know why. They probably don't know why. They're probably frustrated. Something's happening. I can't talk to this person. Mary Bill's probably at work right now. I don't have a phone number. I have an email. No one checks their emails these days. So it's very hard to have that like saying like that's informed my decision. From like Mary Bill informed my decision. Her frustration or the illumination of her frustration in some form or fashion informs that initial thought. And I think it comes down to like, well, we think that Mary Bill wants, and then we go out and then we potentially start to investigate that. But I think what ends up becoming the actual product is really interesting because in many cases down the line, I will have that opportunity to speak to Mary Bell. She'd be like, no, I wasn't frustrated about that. I dropped my phone. And so that was their drop off. But so it's really interesting because then those conversations, that interaction that we have with those customers ultimately inform what we build. And it's be hard to say that was it our idea or was it us speaking to them that formed the fashion. It has a sway back and forth. And I think it depends on what you're building and at what point you're building it. Am I iterating on something that exists, or am I conceptualizing something that doesn't exist?
Okay, so
to your point,
paths.
Freddie, like unpacking everything that you said, like a lot of the stuff you were saying is like, okay, I can't contact the customer because of XYZ. The email's wrong. They don't answer the phone. All this stuff. Why? Why not? Why is the process in such a way where you are getting lost and you have to think? If you think about like Teresa Torres, like I've watched some of her videos, some of her talks about product discovery, and I truly believe that. Like you're there to find the customer's needs, not their wants. I could tell you what I want all the time. Like to Tom's point, it's like we never thought we wanted an iPad. We never thought we wanted this. But when you do product discovery and you see it's like, hey, I see you're doing this, this, and this. I can save you time. Boom. Now let's try to create and solve this problem. Instead of you can give the wants up the wazoo. And if you want to see a good failure of wants, look at Microsoft Word. How many items in Microsoft Word do you use? People wanted it. Not everyone. I don't use it all. So we're almost being complacent. It's like, oh, it's so much work to find out the needs and find out all this. I think we'll just do this and we'll go and see what happens. We're not going to innovate that way. Why do you think productivity growth is half of what it was in 1980 based on the World Bank? It's because we just become complacent.
I know. Well, what we did is we adopted email, and that is what killed it.
Yeah.
And there is all sorts of good data that email, chat, and all of that garbage actually is what killed productivity. And you can actually see that very carefully in the data. So I don't know that it's complacency, albeit, there may be some form of complacency, but our communication proliferation has not been helpful. But I'll be honest with you, what we're just, I'll go, but, I think Daniel hit it on the head when we quoted Reinertsen about the fuzzy front end. And I'm not convinced that you can always go and ask people. You can't always go and find their needs. or their wants. I think there is some degree of, if you're truly innovating, wants and needs aren't the place to go find those true innovations. Perhaps I am, a little bit on the lackadaisical side on this. So 20 years, what was it? 2001, whatever year this is, 2026 at the point this runs. Those 4 values statements, right? This over this, are they still relevant?
Yes. But we just don't have to take it to extremes.
Yeah.
But it is probably always relevant.
Yeah.
Even before this stuff was said.
Yeah, I agree.
I see a thumbs up from Mr. Willets.
And one thing that I would add is that managing a project or managing a product basically requires the same type of skills. There's no real difference. And I would add also that artificial intelligence, why sometimes I'm asking myself, why do we need AI to the table? Because it's being sort of a sycophant. It always agrees with you, no matter where you go. And then you just tilt it around and it turns 360 degrees and says, or 180 degrees and says, oh, I agree with you now. And that I have realized that, like yesterday, wherever I go, it just hangs out with me and is not saying, like, for example, I asked an AI agent, velocity, is it any good for monitoring or evaluating a project? Oh, yes. Well, come on, man, Then I said, what about this? Oh, you're right. It's not good. So I would say that the individual and communication between individual is really key.
People,
and that
people
AI
individuals.
Agent,
People individuals.
Yeah.
yes.
Would the people we work with still consider all 4 of those value statements relevant?
Well, you don't have to tell them.
Or ask them.
You can watch their behaviors to see if their behaviors are exhibiting those value statements. Certainly.
Like if you tell them straight ahead, hey, here are the values. Do you agree with them? They'll know right away. Oh, these are, well, unless they've been living under a rock. Like, oh yeah, these are agile values. Like, no, I don't believe it. Blah blah blah. But to your point, Jeremy, yes, if you observe them now, like just kind of take a step back and like kind of sit in the balcony and watch everyone run around and do their thing, you'll see whether they exhibit those behaviors, whether they exhibit those values.
Has anybody here looked at the latest Gallup survey on what's it called? Employee engagement. I don't know where it's at now, but when we talk about people in interaction, we're talking here like it's ubiquitous. All we need are people together to talk together. No, because they're not equally engaged for whatever reason. And they're not equally competent and mission focused. So while we say it's important, because it absolutely is, it's also important to make sure that it's not just a random collection of people. It's actually people who are interested in whatever this is we're doing here.
I don't think it's just Gallup. I think there's a lot of studies out there that say engagement's down considerably lower than to what it used to be.
Yeah, the last time I looked, it was like 10% or 20%, somewhere in that range, were actively sabotaging your company, and about 30 or 40% were people that were really engaged. And then you had the middle ground of people that, I'm here for a paycheck. I'll do a little something as I think I want to. I'll do it at the pace I wish to do it at. I'm not mission focused. I'm not here for that. I'm here for a paycheck and probably a little bit of social interaction.
Well,
I think remote work has amplified that.
Oh, I'm sure
probably,
it has.
Yeah. I bet it has.
Well, remote and hybrid has, and I know that Freddie is very plus on that, but it has caused relationship problems, and I think we're all aware of that. Forcing people back to the office, that's, has its own interesting things. Here in the States, we are flying headlong into a massive recession. And by the time this runs, I might have to edit that out. We'll see. But the job statement today is just horrid. One of the largest firms here in Cleveland this week decided, because sales are plummeting, that they're no longer contributing to people's 401k. They're forcing them all back to work in their brand new building that they spent billions of dollars in, and making sure that they no longer are contributing to their 401ks. So that's the world we live in. And so John's point about engagement and all of that is not going to go away. And how do we engage people when we're also telling them, hey, 80 hours is a good number of hours to work. Come back to the office. We're not going to help you with your 401k. Live on.
I mean, that example that you just gave, Tom, it's enough to make your head spin.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we work in a city where that firm is really prominent. We can see the skyline of the city and how it's been altered by this particular firm. And
gorgeous building, by the way.
It is a gorgeous building. It reflects sunlight beautifully. I'm sure it's a lovely place to work when all those folks go back to the office. But man, it's going to be
7 days.
It's going to be a significant engagement problem for that particular culture, which probably already having engagement problems. But to then have no 401k match, come back to work downtown with no parking garage, as I'm aware.
Yeah.
I think they're probably going to have to pay their own parking. They're going to have to commute downtown. They're going to have to pay for parking every single day. They're going to have to pay for lunch potentially. It's like that's going to add up pretty quickly.
I got a couple of things I'd like to add here. One is there are some things that, okay, I don't know if it's still relevant. It's been a while since I've done this, but the 7 patents I've had were often because of spontaneous conversations in goofy areas that had nothing to do with the work. It was not a Teams chat like this. It was, man, this problem is terrible. There's got to be a solution to this, right? So that's one thing about coming to the office. I think there are some things and sometimes which you really need to maybe consider being co-located, whatever that might mean. Then the second is, it's one thing to take those benefits away when the company's under duress or in stress. People, I think, understand that. You know what? I still have a job. The company's marginal about making it through. It's another one to say, I'm raking in the money and I'm also giving you $20 for your 401k or your bonus check this year. You know,
or I'm laying off swaths of people to invest in AI R&D work.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're robbing me and making me work harder so you can get rid of me, more of us later. That's not a good look.
So the reason I brought that up is we talk about, all of us would suggest and did suggest that the manifesto and the values there are still relevant. Are they still relevant in a down economy, or are they just relevant in an up economy?
Probably becomes more relevant when you have fewer people to make things happen with, and down economy usually comes with downsides, which means I need more synergy. I need synergy.
Do more with less. It's do more with less.
That's right. That's exactly correct. So, which means I really need to be pulling on the same rope, all of us together, best we can.
I think this is interesting because listening to I am a part of the startup world. You say 401k matching, I say never heard of it. And so it's really interesting because I think that comes into the idea of the scale of the economy. For me, the Agile Manifesto becomes more important for us at our scale in a down economy, because a down economy, ironically, is somewhat helpful for us as a business. And it's really interesting in that concept because it's I've seen, to everyone's points here, like each one of these manifest themselves in some form or fashion. But I think that they, over the period of 25 years, they've evolved in interesting ways. I would say at my company, we're efficiently inefficient at getting meetings done on time. And that's just because we're communicating, we're, talking to each other and having, that engagement we would normally have at a water cooler in the office. Just during our meeting times, we go over a little bit. It's inefficient, but we're having those fun, proactive conversations that often break off into separate conversations that become innovative.
Okay.
And I think it's really interesting because I would say maybe it's just a younger generation thing that is the environment that we've been working with for the last 5-6 years that has evolved into a new type of office culture and development culture.
It certainly, I think, is a startup culture, whether it's young culture or not. You would have a better shot at that, but it certainly seems to be a startup culture.
I mean, an undercurrent to the manifesto is lean and the whole lean movement. I mean, Jeremy talked about things that have been around for a long time prior to the manifesto being codified. I mean, goodness, lean has been around for longer than most of us have been alive, at least codified the Toyota way. So, like, if you're a believer in the marriage and synergy, to John's favorite word, of agile and lean together, then no better time to start practicing lean than in a down economy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's like the Chinese proverb about planting a tree. The best time to establish lean would have been 20 years ago. The next best time
is right now.
Is right now, yeah.
Yep.
If I can, what is it when you take something and you permutate it goofily like that?
No, that's actually, I don't think that's a bad or even a goofy permutation. It is, and I think many of us have used that analogy, metaphor, saying more than once, mainly because those trees. Used to have a cube neighbor that always said, "We're planting a seed." Too many seeds in my mind, but hey, I think we have to, and both of Jeremy and Freddie probably know this person. So we have been planting this seed for a long time. We have lived and used the manifesto. It sounds like we all still believe in it and believe that the tenets are equally important, whether we're in a good economy or a bad economy, maybe even more important. The whole lean stuff has been highly effective and highly useful in the multiple down economies that I've worked through. So I don't think any of this is throwaway stuff. I think it's important, though, that you step back occasionally and challenge all of this stuff. Is it still important? Is it still important in your organization? You can't just wave a magic wand and say, hey, these 4 principles, these 4 values and the 12 principles are always going to be equally important every day of our lives, because context changes, and that context is important. So sometimes one of those values might be more important than another, kind of thing.
And I'll play a reverse trick here, and I'll say that lean is 20 years away and always will be.
Say more.
Well, because to the point that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago and the next best time is now, I am saying that lean is 20 years away and always will be, because you'll never reach lean nirvana.
Yeah. It's a continuous improvement approach.
Yes.
And things change. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the responding to change over following a plan. That's the fourth.
Yes.
That's the fourth value statement that we haven't. I think Tom said it at the intro, but we haven't come back to that particular one. I was forgetting it. Keep going, Daniel.
Yeah. And just to be picking, okay, Toyota and lean have nothing in common. If you tell someone at Toyota you're doing lean, they will not be happy. Toyota has its own recipe, its own way of doing things, and they do not identify with lean. And that's all I'm going to say on that.
I'll ask for forgiveness then. I'll
it's
slap my own hand.
It's a continuous improvement thing. That's it. It's
Yeah. Either way, Toyota and Lean have the same continuous improvement thing, but Toyota does not practice Lean.
I have
as such.
I have ended this podcast for the last 20 years with a statement. And that statement is, if process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?
I think those are economic people that are asking those questions. When am I going to see a tangible improvement?
Well, I mean, tangible improvement, we can see it, but we try not to measure it because, for whatever reason, people have resisted measurement many times over the life of
What's the
software
name of this
development
podcast, if I can interrupt momentarily.
Software Process and Measurement Cast.
And
Measurement Cast.
That's important.
Oh,
that
I agree.
You
can't. Well, I love measurement, but people have resisted measurement, and they have whether they think they're doing a craft, but if you're a product person, I think you probably can tell you how to measure whether or not you might be measuring market share, you might be measuring value, you might be measuring the money that you bring in.
Yeah, the product people have a whole arsenal of ways to measure product success. So I mean, again, to name check Marty Kagan's recent work, like he's got 3 books on this topic, and the last one I listened to has tons of information on measurement. Melissa Perry's book for the product build trap has a ton of information on measurement as well. That is, again, like if people are thinking that the product model is going to get them a get out of jail free card and mean they don't have to look at data, they are sorely mistaken.
Quality is the same way, and any quality and continuous improvement at large requires some kind of baseline and experimentation to compare with what you think you can do better, and then measuring that against what you actually get. And
and
well,
you have
how do you know where your end line is if you don't even know where you start?
Well, that's a true statement too.
Baselines.
Yeah,
we don't need no stinking baselines.
It's okay. None of us believe that. Gentlemen, this has been an exciting way to have a conversation about the 4 values in, the Agile Manifesto. I want to thank you all for being here and for participating on it. It's been a wicked run. So
thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
All right.
Yeah, a lot of fun, Tom. A lot of fun.
Well, we've got a year-end one coming up. We'll do that. And so this might be not 384. This might be 385 when it finally runs and spikes the ball on the podcast. And I want to thank, not only all of y'all for being here, Brad, Susan. There were a number of people that were, columnists over the years that popped in and popped out, and the buku people that popped in for interviews. It has been a marvelous run, and I want to thank the people who actually listened to it. The next Software Process and Measurement Cast number 884 will actually feature our final interview. Anthony Mersino and I discuss life, the universe, and everything. The answer might be 42, but this time we'll record the question for posterity. The SPaMCAST 884 will be posted in 2 weeks. We look forward to having you with us. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?